My name is Mike Duncan. I'm President and CEO of the American Coalition for Clean Coal Electricity. We're a coalition that consists of the major railroads in the country, the major coal companies, and major utilities. We also have several co-ops that are members of the organization, and our primary responsibility is to advocate for coal and to keep the lights on.
And why do you think that coal-based energy is important to Wyoming?
Well, you get 89% of your electricity from coal. That's very important, and it keeps coal affordable, and it keeps electricity reliable because you're using coal. But beyond that, Wyoming is the largest coal-producing state. You have 28,000 jobs that are directly involved in coal mining in the state. You produce a huge percentage of the coal for the rest of the country. So as Wyoming goes the rest of the country for coal.
What exactly are the new EPA regulations, and how do you feel they're hurting families and the elderly in the state?
Well, there are two regulations. One is the 111B, and that's basically a de facto ban on new coal plants in the country that the administration announced last year, which does not allow us to continue to improve our technology and make coal more efficient and make it less expensive. The second is the 111D, and that's regulations on carbon. And those are the regulations that we believe are going to cost so much for the country. We think that potentially it could cost as much as $400 billion. We think that it will increase electricity prices in most states by a double-digit amount, and that's really important. In Wyoming, you have about 12,000 families that live below the poverty line. Some states have many more thousand than that, but those are the people who can least afford increases in their energy costs. Of your 12,000 families, on average, they spend 71% of their disposable income on energy. And any new increase on that, a double-digit increase particularly, will make them make very difficult choices between food or medicine and transportation and keeping the lights on and keeping warm in the winter and cool in the summer. So these are very real problems for people. And it also puts pressure on the manufacturing industry. While it's only 3% of your workforce in Wyoming, it's over $2 billion to your economy. And if you don't have low-cost electricity, many of those jobs will go to foreign countries because energy is such a big cost of manufacturing today.
So what can people here in Wyoming do to keep their costs down or to get involved with the effort to keep these regulations from affecting us so greatly?
Well, let me start by asking that they go to our website, www.americaspower.org, and if they are involved in the issue already, there's a way there for them to comment to the EPA and say, stop this and let's consider the cost in this, and you're doing a rush to judgment. We need to slow this process down. We can also help educate people on the facts of coal, how coal is increasingly clean, the fact that we're reducing over 90% of the particulates that is emitted by coal, and that's because of $118 billion worth of investments for us. And then finally, we would ask that you talk to your elected officials. You have a great federal delegation from Wyoming, and they understand the problems. Your Attorney General and your governor both have stood up to the EPA and asked that the EPA reconsider what they're doing in this area. Your legislature has passed a resolution saying how they feel about this particular act and what should be done. So reinforcing to your elected officials that this is a problem, that it will cost jobs in Wyoming, that it will cost individuals with higher cost of electricity, and it will cost manufacturers, and that will spill over to the rest of the country.
So you said that we are expecting this to have increased costs. When would people here in Wyoming likely start to see those increased costs on their bills?
Well, you're probably already seeing some increased costs because of the regulations that have come into play in the last 5 years. We have eliminated about a third of the coal-fired power plants in the country during the last 11 years. And you've got 4 units that are set to retire in Wyoming. I think it's about 50,000 megawatts worth of power. That's enough to power about 50,000 homes and businesses in your state. So that will put pressure on prices, and those will start immediately. But the big increases could start as early as 2020, and you would see potentially double-digit increases as the new EPA regulation, if it is finally approved, goes into force. You'd have fewer power plants. You'd have the potential of more volatility in other energy prices, other sources of fuel for power, and that's when between 2020 and 2030 you'd start seeing more of an increase.
Why use coal-based electricity? What is the benefit of using coal rather than some other source of energy?
Well, first of all, we're the Saudi Arabia of coal in the world. We have over a 300-year energy supply, so it makes us reliable, which is good for national security and also good economically. Second, coal is easily transportable. Coal can be shipped to power plants. It can be stored in large quantities at the power plants. And that's important because the use of electricity is not even. We have peaks. We have peaks in the summer when we need electricity to cool us, and we certainly have peaks in the winter. We saw that with the solar vortex last year, where had we not had the power plants that are slated to be closed in the next year, we couldn't have met the energy demands in many parts of this country because of the extreme cold temperatures that we had and the demand for electricity. So coal helps electricity be affordable, and it helps it be reliable. And we've built up an infrastructure in this country that's the envy of the world, where we're able to transport electricity very quickly. You have typically 99.999% reliability in your electricity, and that's not the case in many countries of the world, and that doesn't allow for evenness in manufacturing, and it certainly creates problems for individuals. I was in a country a few years ago where they knew every day at a certain time that their electricity was going to be cut off, and it was very difficult to plan your life around that. There are other times that their electricity was cut off because they didn't know, and it just created many, many problems, social problems, health problems, economic problems. And we're the envy of the world with our electric grid, and coal is a big part of that.
So with all of these benefits with using coal power, why was it that the EPA regulations came down in the first place?
Well, I think the EPA is driven by some well-meaning people who've been there for a long period of time, and they continue to want more and more, and they don't take the economics into consideration. I think that the president wants to be known as an environmental president, that this is a legacy issue for him. He's taking actions well beyond what other presidents have done in using the EPA. If you go back and look at the Clean Air Act and talk to people who helped write the act and voted for the act, they had no ability at that point to do the things that the president and the administration is asking to be done today. Clean air was not to be regulated in this particular manner. Arguably, we have the cleanest air in the world, and it's because of the investments that we've made and we continue to make in clean coal technology.
Once again, could you just repeat for our listeners, what is the website that they can go to access and see how they can get involved?
Yes, I would encourage you to go to www.americaspower.org, www.americaspower.org. There's an ability there for you to comment directly to the EPA and learn a great deal more about how we create energy for this country.